going to go ahead and press on and start talking about BLAST, just so that we keep on time here. So let me go back to my slides. This is just recapping what we did. We submitted a job through the LSF, a BLAT job. These forward slashes actually signify to the system that you are not completely done with a particular job. And what I mean by that is, if I go back to my first shell here, and I go back to my BLAT job, you can see that for this particular command line, all the options that I want to provide are fitting on just a single line. But there are going to be times when you may have a very long command line where you may be giving relative paths to different files, for example. And even though you can just keep typing and the display here will sort of wrap around to the second line, it gets kind of ugly after a while. So instead of just allowing the display to wrap around, what you could do is type a forward slash, and what that does is the system at this point figures out that you're not completely done issuing this command, and you're still going to type something more. So if I press return in this instance, you can see that the prompt changes to a question mark, meaning the system is still waiting for us to provide something. We are not done issuing this command at this point. So I'm going to issue a different BLAT job, and this time I'm going to say that put my output in the BLAST format, and I'm going to call this output BLAST format. So that's the file name I'm going to use for this next job I'm submitting. So if I press return here, since I have not done, I mean, you can keep providing forward slashes and you will keep getting a question mark, and you can keep providing additional things, but at this point I'm done with my command. So if I press return, my job is going to get submitted. So if you have a very long command line, remember to use a forward slash, which allows you to break it up on several lines on your display. That's just a convenience thing. So if I look at my jobs at this time, now I have two jobs that are pending. And you can see that this job name generally shows you the last few letters of the command that we entered.
So you put the dash first after the flag, but you put the dash out somewhere else.
Normally, on programs that are well written, it would not matter, because when the program actually parses the input, it's going to figure out the options that you gave it. But on some programs that are written with a more stricter requirement, you may be forced to give all of your program options up front, meaning you will first say dash prod, dash out, and then start giving. Generally, you can find out if that's a requirement by looking at the help that is produced by running the BLAT or the program name. Like in this case, we know that the only requirement is these two things: the file names be the database and query be in a certain order, because that's what BLAT is expecting. It's expecting to use the first file as a database. So that's the only thing it's strict about. The rest of the options you can provide anywhere on this command line. I did. So if I go back, you can see that the second command line, if I go back now, the forward slash that I had typed, system has taken that out and basically put everything I typed on one line. Right. So remember, as I said, this is Unix. File extensions don't really mean anything. You can have them or not. Either ways would work. It's still pending. Hopefully they'll run at some point. So let's go back to our second shell, and I will go to my slides one more time. If you wanted to keep working in the first shell we had opened where we were using the BLAT program, and if you are sort of a neat freak, you might want to actually unload the module that you're done with before loading a second module. You can load multiple modules. It's generally not going to hurt, but if you wanted to be sort of neat about it, you could say module unload BAT, which takes out the BLAT specific changes that the system has made, and then you can go back and load the second module. We just ended up loading the BLAST module in a different window. Yeah. That should be fine. As long as you had the module loaded when you submitted the job, it has captured all the necessary things it needs to keep running that job. And that's what allows you to log out, because even if you log out, the job keeps running. But the thing to remember is, if you had loaded the module BLAT in first shell, and if you had loaded the module BLAST in the second shell, you cannot submit a BLAT job in the second shell. You can only submit jobs that belong to that module from that shell. So if you wanted to submit a BLAT job, you'll have to come back to shell 1 and then submit a BLAT job there, or load both modules. Either ways would work. Just a quick note, NCBI supplies the database that all of you have used off of their web interface for BLAST. We actually download a local copy of the BLAST indexes here. So you can actually run a real BLAST job on the same indexes that are available through the web page at NCBI. It's just that our indexes are updated weekly, every Sunday, I believe. So you're going to get the indexes that were available this past Sunday at NCBI. So they'll be updated each week. Generally, that's fine. If I go back to the shell window here, remember, if I wanted to look, so this is where the relative paths are going to come in. So as I told you, our BLAST indexes are in this directory called NAS02 data BLAST. And all of you should be able to, read the files there. So if I just do a listing of the files in this directory, you can see there are hundreds of files in there with the indexes that are pre-built for using with a BLAST program. Quick check on our jobs, see if they made any progress. Not yet. So just like we looked at the options for the BLAST program, you can look at the options of the BLAST-N program. I'm pretty sure you're all probably biologists, so I'm sure you're familiar with the different kinds of BLAST searches and the programs that you use. BLAST-N, BLAST-P for proteins, BLAST-X for translated searches, 6-frame forward, 6-frame reverse. So the BLAST-N program is used for the nucleotide BLAST searches, and you can see that the BLAST-N, so at this point you want to be sure that you are in the second shell, because if I do which BLAST-N, this shell knows which BLAST-N program I'm referring to. But if I was to do the same over in my first shell, since I only have the BLAT module loaded, the system is not going to be able to find the BLAST-N program. So we are working in the second shell where we've loaded the BLAST module. So if I do BLAST-N, again, like I said, generally well-written programs will produce some indication of what that program does and what it is expecting you to provide. So in this case, it's basically saying that you at least have to provide a BLAST database in a subject. That itself is not very useful. So with most of the programs, you would want to try the option -H, because -H generally is coded as a request to provide help with that program. So -H will mostly work with a lot of the programs. Sometimes a question mark like this also works. It might produce the help output. So if I do that BLAST n -H, now it prints all the possible options the BLAST program can take. And you can see that there are tens of options that the BLAST program is able to take. Before we run BLAST, I need to take you back to the slide where we were getting some additional files to use with the BLAST search. And that is on this particular file. So we learned how to download sequence files to the local desktop and then move them up using secure FTP to the server. Now we're going to learn a new program. So we learned about curl last time. Curl was a utility which allowed us to directly grab a file from a web location and save it to the server. This time we are going to learn about a program called wget. So if I go back to my shell, so go back to the second shell you have opened, and since we had opened this shell new, you're probably still in your home directory. So you would want to switch to the netscratch directory. Verify that you're there. Don't do what I did just now. I only did that for because I have some files in there already which I wanted to get rid of. So we are going to use the program called wget, and again